Okay, I think we can start. I think we have quite a lot of participants. So, welcome everyone on today's Metal3 Community meeting. My name is Adam Rosman and I will be your host today. Today is the 10th of December 2025. And as we have a lot of new participants, let me check quickly the list. If I see anyone who has not been here before, but I think most of the folks have been, or at least are or have arrived with folks who have been here. So you most likely all know the process. But if there's someone who would like to introduce yourself, then now is the time. There might be one or two names that I'm not familiar with, but if you have been here, it's fine. You can skip the part. Or if you don't want to introduce. Okay, I see everyone is still muted, so let's continue then. And please remember that the meeting is recorded, and as for the reminders, if you would like to have the project contributions or by creating issues that you can contribute to, then please filter for the help, wanted, and good first issue labels and pick those, and by implementing those or solving those problems, you would have the project a lot. And if you are a seasoned member of our community, then feel free to create issues and attach these good first issue or have wanted labels. If you are a member of an organization that would be willing to publicly acknowledge the adoption of Metal3, then you can do that by pushing the pull request to the community repository within the project and editing adopters.md file in the root of the project, root of the repository, the same way as the others have done before you. And by that, you would help us gauge the level of adoption, and that's also a good signal to CNCF when we move between maturity levels. Then if you feel that your pull requests are stuck, at least one of your pull requests is stuck because of some sort of failing issue, and you think the issue is not related to your change, rather it's a CI problem, then please create an issue in the repository and link it to the Metal3 CI tracker project. And you can do that on the issues page on the UI, the right-hand side under the project menu. Okay, and if you are interested in any other statistics, documentation, or info, then please check the links in this meeting document or visit the main page of the project on GitHub, and you will see it on the welcome page. Okay, I think that's all for the reminders. I think we can also skip Leonard's topic that we are carrying since the MTM, because he is participating in a meetup in presenting some Metal3 related stuff, but so he won't be here to participate, so we can continue. And the first topic is the working groups, and I see, Dimitri, you have some comments there.
Yep. Hello, folks. I actually don't have a lot to report. I'm looking currently into synchronizing metrics collection as I promised. Finally got time to that. It's moving slowly. It's going to take me a lot of time. I don't have anything planned for running scalability. I hoped to do some scale testing in the coming months, but I'm overwhelmed by other priorities, so not gonna happen until, I don't know, spring maybe. And that's really all. And I pasted one link into ARM section because it seems like somebody is working on iPixie, and we're getting closer with that. So that needs more eyes, I believe.
Thank you. Let me quickly check. Okay. I will CC myself here, and I think
just about this iPixie thing, there's mention of us not wanting to use EPEL. I wonder, well, I kind of understand why, but I wonder what would be kind of the alternatives when we need packages that are not existing on otherwise.
I don't think we
If
have
it
any
seems to
firm
be-
policy against EPEL.
And then there's the other thing that this PR reminded me is why are we building iPXE ourselves and not using the iPXE boot images from the CentOS directly? Is it because they are too old or anything like that?
At least at some point they were too old and they did not have IPv6 support. It's probably a good point that we need to reconsider that, because we use these IPX images from RHEL in OpenShift, and I guess yes, stream should not be way too far away. If we have Ricardo here, he probably have more opinions on this. Oh yeah, we do have you here.
Yeah, for the EPEL repository, yeah, we don't have any policy on that. I was like, if we can find an alternative, would be better, because at some point we removed that. But well, if there is no alternative, then of course we're going there. For the other thing, yeah, the main reason was that the package was not updated, and so we had to build everything ourselves. We can revisit that definitely if there are news on that side.
Okay. And I think that was answered then. Just one comment that also we have. Again, I always advertise it because it would be nice to have more users. We have in the utility images repository in the project, we have an iPixie builder that was designed to be deployed on the fly when you deploy Ironic, and you can build custom iPixie with that, and that allows you to do more. And it would be nice if someone would be using it, and then we could improve on it. Might be helpful for some folks.
So just to add one thing, if there is the real need for having one more package, because my understanding is that the package that is missing, it was actually there in previous versions of CentOS until CentOS 8, if I'm not mistaken. So it's missing in 9 and 10. If there is the need to add more packages, we can always push for that. Or, well, at least give it a try.
It's not going to be fast though.
No, of course, I'm talking like long-term solution. If this becomes kind of like essential for us, we can going down that road for the future.
If I remember correctly, the syslinux is only needed for BIOS compatibility. I don't know if we still are really compatible with BIOS anyway, because of other things. So we may still be, but I'm not sure of in what measure it still is relevant to put efforts into supporting that fully. Like maybe we couldn't just be well, if BIOS doesn't work, then it doesn't work. Like put it behind some feature flag or something. If it helps us getting things built more easily.
I've basically left a similar comment right now. Both UNDI only and syslinux are only required for legacy boot. So it's not an entirely insane idea that ARM64 Ironic images don't have them. Right? Because if you run Ironic image on an ARM64 cluster, not being able to do legacy boot seems to be a logical consequence of that. We don't even have to disable it completely. We just can make it conditional on the architecture document that only Ironic image built on Intel architectures are capable of doing that.
Yeah, so to add to what Dimitri just said, my comments there pointing out that this change takes like into consideration only building on x86 is exactly to push that, like to be able to distinguish between x86 and ARM64 builds. So putting some kind of logic there when we need things or not based on the architecture that we want, like the build to happen, let's say.
And on this, the sad part is that we only discovered that we were not able to build the ironic image for ARM because of that PR. Because in the end, it's the current status of the ironic image Docker that is not buildable for ARM64 right now. So it's kind of highlight once more that we may want to have at least a test for building the image for ARM.
Eventually, we can put it to the pipeline, IP builder pipeline, open the GitHub discussion about that. I think I posted a picture of how this would look, but if I will, actual GitHub Jenkins pipeline picture. So we can build these things for ARM, but then I will need to request an on build host.
If it's just for building the image, we can just go away with the Podman or Docker and specifying platform. It's able to build cross-platform quite easily. If it's for testing the images actually functional, it will require an ARM builder or an ARM worker.
Yeah, that's what I thought. But I was also okay. You are not like how to say, like, so you are not planning to support source-based build for ARM, if I understand correctly from your words, like building IPXC from source for ARM.
Why not?
I'm just asking.
There's only one part we cannot build, and that is the bootstrap image for legacy booting, which doesn't make sense on ARM whatsoever. It seems that I haven't confirmed that, but it seems that from the conversation you can build everything else. Like specifically SNPO and AFI should be buildable.
Yep, I'm fine with it. Again, just adding the IPXC builder container we have, that's building from source. So that's why I was asking if there is interest for that, and building it for ARM, because I find it myself very useful to build it from source, because then I can embed scripts into it, and certificates and whatnot. Kind of opens up a lot of possibilities. But anyways, let's continue this discussion on the pull request. And thanks for bringing up the PR itself, because I didn't even notice this one. If there are no like big problems with this, then let's continue, because I think today we have quite a lot of big topics. Okay. Yeah. This is the epoch pipeline discussion I mentioned, so check that out also. Ask if you have questions, and then I will answer. I'm thinking this will go. And then let's continue with the release team. I don't see anything on the release team or under the release team, but I think there was a Ironic 32 release, and there is an IRSO release.
So we had the ironic image 33, but I haven't announced it yet, and there will be soon, hopefully, a new IRSO release as well, hopefully today.
Okay. Then that's good. Any questions, comments related to this? If nothing else, then let's continue. And let's see the demo about the work or the switch configuration. I'm interested about that, and thanks for presenting.
Okay,
Try to
let me just, oh, go ahead,
Yeah.
Adam.
Yeah, just try to take the share. I think if you start sharing, it will remove from me, but you can.
It says that I can't share because
Okay.
you're still sharing.
Okay, I will stop.
Let's
Now,
see here.
now maybe.
This one. Let me know when you can see my screen.
Yeah, the diagram. That's what happens here.
Yep, okay, good. So first of all, thanks for giving me an opportunity to present this demo to you today. And I'll preface this by saying, so my setup is very OpenShift centric, so I'll just skip over some aspects that it's not really related to Metal Cubed. So this diagram is meant to show sort of the full picture of what my setup looks like in our OpenShift deployment. So the bottom layer obviously is Ironic. So this is where the changes that I'm proposing to the Ironic community are implemented, and that implementation is moving forward quite well now. So we've got several patches merged. I think there's only 3 or maybe 4 left to go, and but the bigger ones have already been merged. So this is well on its way to being accepted. So I'm working through the remaining comments in the change request, and I'm hoping that in the next few weeks we can get everything merged. Although with the holiday season coming up, it's going to take a bit longer. But anyway, so that part's going very well. So the bottom layer here, so we've got a new Ironic networking service. Its purpose is to interact directly with the top of rack switch, and it does so using a switch config that is part of its config file. The main Ironic process, I've drawn it here as the separate API and conductor, but depending on the deployment, this could be just one process. It interfaces with the Ironic networking service using a new network interface driver called the Ironic networking driver, and it pushes the port state changes over to the networking service, and that goes into the top of rack. And then above that is the proposal that I've put on the table for the Metal Cubed community. So I've proposed that we add a new switch config CRD. I've proposed that we add a new host network attachment, which describes sort of the port configuration for a particular port. I've proposed that we extend the BMH to reference those network attachments to say that for a particular NIC, there should be a particular network attachment. And then BMO would take that and convert that down into different port attributes, the switch port attribute being the one to contain the switch port info. And IRSO would manage the reconciliation of the switch CRD, and that would get pushed down as a config file for the new Ironic networking service, which it also manages. And then above that is the orchestration stuff for OpenStack or for OpenShift. I won't get into those details here today, but just enough to say that up here we define a higher level view of what that should be, and then that comes down through our site config operator, which would create the network attachments and modify the BMH, and the switch config would come from our GitOps because that would be a more or less long-lived static data. So that's kind of the 10,000-foot view of how things fit together. If I go over to my demo window, so this is a pre-recorded video, I'll sort of skip over some of the less interesting parts. So in the upper right-hand window here, I've got a monitoring tool that's basically monitoring my top of rack switch, and specifically just the 3 ports, just the 3 ports that I care about for my particular BMH. In the bottom right-hand corner, I've got another monitoring tool that's monitoring a bunch of different artifacts that probably not interested interesting for this community, but except for this middle one here, which is the BMH status. So this particular line will change as the demo goes on. So let me hit play. I'll talk about some of the more interesting aspects and fast forward through the less interesting aspects. So the first thing that I'll show is just our OpenShift config that's going to show that we've added a new, let me just dump this out here. Yeah, so this is basically just showing that we're choosing to enable ironic networking because it's going to be an optional feature. So we've got a bool to do that. We've also have a Boolean to, or sorry, not a Boolean, a configure attribute to say what the idle VLAN is for ironic. So this is basically the VLAN that we will always put nodes back onto after we've deprovisioned them or deleted them or when a network is not required. So that provisioning CR will translate into a ironic CR, which is the one that I've proposed changes for. So in here, we have a new section to define the networking service. We have it listed as enabled. We have a network driver, which defines how ironic is speaking to the ironic networking service over RPC. And then that service network or idle network, as it's known in ironic, is propagated here from our higher level OpenShift config, so that ironic knows about it as well. And then we define a switch driver, which is how the ironic networking service talks to the top rack switch. This one's based on network generic switch, which is already in use by Neutron in other deployments. And then if we, next step here is to dump out the pods. So we see that we've got a new pod running for the ironic networking service. So it's contained within its own pod. It's got its own config files, and it's meant to just interact with the top rack switch. If we list the ironic switch CRs, which I've added, and dump out the details of that, so we see that here I've got one switch defined. It's got a specific driver type of generic switch, which maps to the network generic switch, and it's a Dell OS 10 switch. It's got an IP address. We're using a password credentials instead of SSH credentials in this particular case. And it's got a MAC address, which is the switch ID that you'll see in the switch port info later on. Next up, we dump out the configuration file in the ironic networking pod, and you'll see here that the same information that's in the ironic switch CR appears down in the switch config file. So we've automatically propagated down into the switch file. Any changes to the CR will get propagated there, and then the process is restarted and consumes that config file. So I'm dumping out the BMH to show that I've got one BMH available. I've pre-provisioned this, or it's not pre-provisioned, sorry, pre-installed it. It did inspection beforehand. So if I look at the spec here, there's nothing too special. This is how our BMHs look when they're first installed in the system. They're waiting to be used, so they don't have any anything other than the BMC credentials and the pre-provisioning image. We mark the online bool to false because when it's not being used for a cluster, we like to power them off. And over on the right-hand side in the monitoring window, we see that it's marked as available. Its switch ports are still parked on the access VLAN, the idle VLAN that's used when the node's not being used as part of a cluster. That way we can do inspection on it and get LLDP information for the NICs so that we know which switch ports that we're managing. And then if I dump the hardware data for that particular BMH and show just the specs.hardware.nix, you'll see that the nodes consumed LLDP information. I did that PR several weeks ago, and it's been merged now. So, future BMHs will have LLDP information for its NICs. So we've got the same 3 switch ports that we're monitoring up here listed in the hardware data. Next, if I just run a custom tool that I've got to dump out the ironic node and port states information just via accessing the API with regular curl commands in my bash script, I see that I've got 6 ironic ports against this one node. 3 of them have LLDP information, and the thing to note here is that none of them have any switch port configuration information yet because my cluster deployment hasn't started. Next up, if I dump my cluster instance defaults, which is, again, this is an OpenShift higher level concept, but this is basically how I'm defining the cluster that I'm about to provision. So we've extended this, or we're proposing to extend this so that in the higher level data, we define which host network attachments we want the site config operator to create for us before it provisions the BMH. So here we've got 3 different host network attachments, one for the machine network on VLAN 310, and a couple of secondary ones that I use for my secondary NICs, just a simple trunked switch port with a single tagged VLAN just for demo purposes, basically. And then those are the global attributes. If I go down to the specific node stuff, so I've got one node provision here, and in the node, I'm defining what the BMH is going to look like. So I'm going to have 3 references to those network attachments here. So each NIC is going to be assigned a different network attachments, and that's how we know how to configure those switch ports for each particular NIC on the BMH. So that's going to define how the site config operator modifies the BMH when provisioning is kicked off. Next step here is I'm going to actually show that there's no host network attachments created yet. So they only exist in the cluster instance default. So just in the planned cluster deployment, they don't actually exist on the system yet. And then if I issue my actual provisioning request from my top level orchestration API for my particular node, that's going to kick off the orchestration layer. It's going to create a cluster instance. It's going to create those host network attachments. It's going to modify the BMH. It's going to kick off provisioning. So it's going to do that one step at a time here. So it'll just take a second and that will appear. And then I'll show the state of the nodes and the ports. I'll just fast forward here real quick. So here the host network attachments got created. The next step is, I believe, I dump out the BMH. So recall that when I dumped out the BMH before, it only had a few attributes. Now it's got network interfaces defined in it, which are the references to the host network attachments for each of the NICs. So each NIC has its own, like we had defined in the cluster instance defaults. It's still, it's still on the idle VLAN because provisioning hasn't gotten to that point yet. The next thing I do is I believe I dump out the ironic port information again. And now we should see BMO will have consumed the new BMH attributes, and it will program the switch port information in ironic for each of those ports. So that tells ironic how to configure the switches, or switch, I should say. And then if we go just fast forward a bit. So here we go. So ironic has gone ahead, and if you look in the upper right hand corner, you'll notice the switch port's now switched from VLAN 313 to the primary NIC is access port VLAN 310, and the 2 other NICs are the 2 different network attachments that we have defined. So trunk port 801, trunk port with allowed VLAN 802, and so provisioning is well underway now. So we've put the node on the right VLANs. The node got powered off and rebooted to pull in the proper provisioning image and all that stuff. So I'll fast forward here considerably into the future. So an hour and what did I write down? An hour and 25, 44, 25, 40, oops. Yeah, so my provisioning request is now completed. So if you look over here, and then I'll dump out, I think, oh, maybe I don't dump out anything else here. If I go to the delete phase, which I did at an hour and 55, 50, 54, 54. So the next thing I do, so I do a delete. So the delete happens. And then if I continue on to 237. There was a problem on the deprovisioning. It didn't boot its proper image from virtual CD, so it took a bit of time. It had to time out. If I fast forward, so here you see us switching the VLANs back to 313. And then, where was it? 237. 237. So the BMH goes back to the available state. Up in the right-hand corner, the VLANs are set back to 313. So now this node is ready to re-inspect and get re-provisioned later on. If I continue on a little bit, I'll dump out the internal. So here we see that in the bottom left, the network attachments are gone because the system has been deprovisioned. And if oops, that was the last thing. Oh, sorry, let me go back there. I thought there was one more thing. All right, and then the ironic port state in the bottom left here. So the switch port config is gone, and now the ports only have LLDP information again. So the system's reset back to how it was. I could now do another provisioning request. I could put that node in a different set of VLANs now because it's going to be part of a different cluster. I don't have to go and dispatch somebody from my networking team to go and change the switch port configs because I want to group this node in a different cluster. All that can happen automatically now, and you save those manual steps. So that's the end of my demo. Are there any questions or comments or?
Okay, looks like there are no questions so far. I think that was quite a lot of info to digest.
Right.
And also, yeah, folks would need to read your PR, but yeah,
Right,
I see PR. Yeah, okay, go on.
I have a question on the custom resource representing grouping all the VLAN on an interface. Probably from the higher level, we will reason by network. So VLAN by VLAN. And the question is whether resource grouping the states of all VLAN on an interface is better than one resource per VLAN, because I don't think it will bring you anything for the backend. And for the view above, you will have probably to generate resource per VLAN and then aggregate them in your interface.
I'm not sure I understand the question. Let me just go back to my cluster instance defaults here. Where was that? Just before this, I think. Yeah. So
Before you
talking about
continue,
these? Are you talking about these? Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So sorry to cut you off. You can answer it. I just have to ask something from Ricardo or Suna. I have to drop. I have something come up. Can one of you continue facilitating? You don't have to do anything. Just continue with the agenda, and then at the end, when everybody quits, anyways, the recording will end. So, would any of you be okay? Suna, Ricardo? We can't hear Suna. Ricardo, maybe you?
Hello, can you hear me, Adam?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Yeah.
Now I can hear you.
Yeah, okay, I can take it over. So I had to change some configuration.
No, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to claim host or anything. Just when Align finishes with the demo, you just have to continue with the discussion topics and share your screen. You don't have to do anything.
Okay, great. Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, folks. I have to drop. Bye-bye.
Hello, folks. May I ask some question about this network and integration with Ironic?
Sure. Just let me answer the previous question first, and we'll come back. So if I follow the previous question, I think it was Pierre.
Yes.
So in my cluster instance right now, so I'm defining three host network attachments. The first is for the primary NIC. It's just an access VLAN 310. And then the two other secondary NICs, just for example purposes, I just defined it as a trunk with multiple VLANs, but in my case, I only have one VLAN. This could easily be a list of VLANs that you want to define on that. So was your question, is it better to do it this way where multiple VLANs are assigned together in a particular resource and managed as that group? Or is it
Yeah,
better to have a network attachment per VLAN and then
exactly.
somehow list all those network attachments on a particular NIC?
Yes.
Okay.
Because, well, uh, w- we have played with those ideas in the context of host claims. And the way we do it is we create network claim, and the network claim is really, in your context, one VLAN. And you could have your network claim used by different machine deployment, but not necessarily the same. So then you aggregate them and you push them on the bare metal hosts that are linked with those claims. And it seems for me to be easier to have one separate resource so that everybody stays separated. And I think that for your backend, it's also true because you will configure VLAN by VLAN, not. So if I change something, you see, you have to add your change to the group, and your backend is extracting that something has been changed from this group to perform the action on the switch.
Yeah, I can give that some thought. That one of the reasons why I didn't go down that road is because I wasn't intending for this to be a sort of a way to manage VLANs per se, and that, it's reserved for this purpose or it can't be used for this other purpose. Like there's nothing preventing someone from creating a completely different network attachment with all of these or some of these VLANs and have it used for a completely different cluster if that's what they want to do because they know they're attached to different switches or different parts of their data center or the VLAN 801 is not the same as VLAN 801 over there. So I was trying not to go down that road as a VLAN management kind of framework. I was really just trying to express how is it that we want the switch ports to be configured for a particular grouping of nodes. So I wasn't trying to uh, create anything more complex than that. But we can certainly give that some thought and some discussion as this moves forward.
It's also because we probably would want to have different backend, that it's important to keep maybe things as separate because probably some will configure directly VLAN, but others may want to configure the VTEP for VXLAN, so VLAN and VNI and so on.
Yeah, VXLAN stuff is certainly a completely different beast that maybe we'll tackle in the future. For now, our hope is to get this feature out in a state where we can manage VLANs on ports, and then we're going to add lag support, and then MTU support, maybe PTP support, and then we can talk about some other more exotic network configurations later on. But we're trying to walk before we can run here, so. This is our first stab at it. But thanks for your question. We'll keep that kind of stuff in mind. There was another question after, I think, Vasil.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So I have a question. I've just briefly looked onto this integration, and as far as I understood, the integration, the network integration itself is done inside the Ironic. So it's extended with networking interface and um, actually drivers that communicate to the networking hardware is implemented on Ironic side. So my first question is it possible to change? Yeah, this picture. Yeah, thanks for highlighting it. Yeah, so is it possible to change this networking configuration for the nodes as soon as it's provisioned, or it's only possible to do it via reprovisioning?
You mean changing it on a node that's already active and deployed?
Yeah, for example, use case when you want to attach additional networks to already deployed node. Is it possible to do it with this API?
Well, theoretically, it could be possible. Currently, I think those port changes would only be allowed when the node is in a manageable state. So I don't think, or available state, I don't think it would be allowed there. But I mean, if that's a use case that's important, we can discuss that as a
Yeah,
future extension.
yeah. I mean, so imagine the use case when you program a SRIV with VLANs, and you want to connect that VLAN dynamically to the port where your pod with the SRIV attachment is living. So you will need to have ability to dynamically plug network port node ports to specific VLANs after
Yeah,
provisioning is done.
Yeah, to that I'd say that I think the use cases that we had in mind were more of a static nature. So
Mm-hmm.
you know what the configuration is going to be before you provision your node. The node gets provisioned and off it goes. But I acknowledge that that's a real thing, and maybe we can find a way to get that in there as a secondary enhancement.
Yeah, thanks. And another question is, have you considered to do this integration with networking devices on a bit upper layer? I mean, inside the bare metal provider itself. Because, for example, if you already have the um, networking fabric management system that you already can program, I mean, from the Kubernetes via Kubernetes objects or via like Go-based driver, not Python-based code, basically. So, and if you want to integrate this system with Metal Cube provisioning, like you need that step when this provisioning pause for a bit, and your networking driver can program the fabric. So, I mean, as an option, haven't you considered to do this integration on provider layer? I mean, one of drivers may be still Ironic that will do the calls to Ironic APIs, set the needed fields on the node that will plug the ports into VLANs, but on other hand, it will allow users to integrate with systems that are like more Kubernetes native or have better Kubernetes support at the moment.
So it is something we discussed early on. The reason, or one of the reasons why we chose to build it down here instead of trying to extend it off of this layer is because, we're trying not to reinvent the wheel. Ironic already has hooks in place for doing some of these networking operations based on the state changes of nodes. So we thought a natural place to do this was to extend the framework down here and add the networking service. And when we approached this community, there was some interest in doing that because one of the reasons is because today, Ironic, to do any of this, would have to pull in Neutron and other parts of OpenStack in order to do this. So providing a way for Ironic to do this without, as a standalone thing, without having to pull in other parts of OpenStack seemed like a desirable thing. And so this discussion took us down that journey, and that's how we ended up here. But yeah, I mean, there's certainly a bunch of different ways to do this, but this is the path that we thought was had the most chance of success for the use cases that were important to us.
Understood. Thanks. Thanks.
Anything else? Okay, if there's anything else, you can reach out to me on the PR that we've got for this proposal and ask any questions you may want to ask there, or help shape the future of this feature. And thanks again for giving me some time in the meeting to go over this, and I'll stop my sharing.
Thank you very much, Alan. I will start sharing my screen. It's stuck. So for that, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can hear
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, now I managed to actually share it. Yeah, can you hear? Can you see my screen?
Yep.
All right, great. So, yeah, well, thank you very much, Alan, for the demo. It was very interesting. Personally, I'd be very interested to try it out as well. Yeah, next topic is from Adam. So Adam was asking, like, will it be okay to allow the DMC addresses when the node is in available state? So he stated several reasons here. Yeah, Dmitry, you were saying that maybe you could explain your point of view, and Adam can later watch.
Yeah, Adam has read it apparently. So we work around any potential issues of changing the driver on the fly by requiring hosts to be detached. I don't find it cumbersome. I'd probably like to revisit this topic next time when we have Adam and myself sitting here, and Mahnur ideally, because I'm curious to hear what exactly is happening during the rolling upgrade. Because right after that, there are a few things we have to make sure it's not just we update the thing, we let the webhook update the thing. Right, we need to change the ironic node, and we need to make sure the change is still working. So validate power management interfaces. We probably need to power the host off before we apply this change so that we break fast track. So there's a few issues that make it slightly less straightforward if we bypass detachment. So let's maybe table this whole thing until Adam is here.
Okay, yeah, I agree. If we can already do that when it's detached, yeah, it would be great to hear Adam's point of view, like when do the rolling upgrades and how they're gonna change. All right, then we will move to the next topic. So it's from Jakob or Jacob. Sorry, I
Yeah,
mispronounced.
that's right. No problem. I'm happy to explain. If it's okay, I'm gonna screen share the Google Doc I linked, and I'll quickly walk you through my thinking. It's early days for this proposal, so more than anything, I'd just like to hear some general feedback and hear from the community where you folks think this belongs. So if you can stop screen sharing, I'll screen share my GDoc.
Okay, I have stopped now. You can share.
Yep.
Your screen.
Let me just okay. This one share. Let me know if when this loads. Is my screen visible?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. So at the moment, I'm working on a feature in Ironic, which is simply taking hardware health monitoring that's available in Redfish today and presenting it through Ironic interface so we can keep an eye on the health state of the nodes. So first sample you've got is just a curl against the BMC itself. I'm trying to add code to Ironic, which will essentially let us do what's on the next sample. So potentially adding an additional column to the CLI tools monitoring health. I'm getting there with the work. There's a few more improvements I need to make to the code, but it's on the right track. Because of that, I wanted to raise this with the Metal3 community and see what you folks think, whether you would see this as a feature fit for Metal3, and what would be the preference in terms of presenting it. Would it be a BMH a status field, something else? So yeah, first and foremost, essentially just wanted to walk you through the whole stack. So we've got the redfish feature I'm fetching the data from. There is the ironic field I'm working on. And then I'm kind of thinking that it could be a worthwhile addition to Metal3. But before I start doing any work, I just wanted to run it by the community and see what you folks think. So that, I suppose, would be my first question. Would you like to see such feature in Metal3 and BMO?
I mean, personally, of course, yeah, it would be very good to check the status of like the health status of the BMH, like the ironic node, in terms of like how we show it is we might decide a bit later, like in where we gonna add this. But if others have other opinion, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'll be very curious to hear. So yeah, if you have any thoughts, comments, criticism, please go ahead. I'll be very curious to take this on board early on before I formally propose this.
Others, like what do you think about it?
This looks like a good idea. The only thing is, here it looks like it just like I would say an overall status. Is it something that will be able to tell, like, just is it LC or not, or will it be able to tell if it's not LC, like a reason or something? Because it may change the way we want to. We would like to display this kind of thing if it's able to do just is it healthy or not, or if there's more to it.
Very good question. I hope to expand this going forward and have more detail. In the initial version, I'm aiming to just pass through what we have in the BMC, which is so-called health rollup. So essentially it just looks at all the components, and if anything major has an issue, then the whole node has an issue. So in the initial release, I would look at that. Later on, we can look at expanding this.
Okay. Probably I don't have that much of the knowledge on the ironic side, but I would like to mention that we are also doing the work of the progress status of the ironic the BMH and then the ironic node, of course, in the BMH. So we decided, like in the project meeting, that we will bubble up the ironic steps and which steps it's happening, and then if there is an error and if something goes wrong, and the error will bubble up in the BMH. But I need to check like how we can utilize this one as well. Like, is it related to
So
the
from my
during
perspective,
the life cycle of the BMH, or is it like during the provisioning? Like, what does health represents? Like,
I would just pass through the health fields coming off the BMC. So I would need to think through this in a bit more detail, but I would think it would be independent of the provisioning state, like whether host is available or provisioned. I'll probably want to know whether it's healthy or not. So my first thought would be to decouple provisioning state from health state. In terms of reporting what exactly is wrong, essentially what Nicholas proposed, the BMC would have health states on most components. We just want to start small so we can have a minimum viable product sooner than later. But as we progress, we could fetch health status from more components than just the overall health rollup. So yeah, that's my current thinking.
oh, okay, this is from the like the BMC components, like the.
Yeah. So we already have this functionality today. We're just not using it as well as we could. So I'm hoping to improve the situation so we can give operators better visibility of what the hardware is doing health-wise.
That is great, actually. Yeah, now I'm into that more after you explained. I understand better. It would be always better to give, from my opinion, it would be always better to give more visibility what's going on in the BMC to the user. So I'm all for it.
All right. So what would be good next steps? Should I create an issue, or what would be a good way of formalizing this work in Metal3 as well as in Ironic? Because Ironic is pretty close to finished. But yeah, I'm just thinking how to get started the Metal3 discussion.
Yeah, you can create a issue or directly the proposal. Maybe we can start with an issue, and then we discuss it, and after we have some kind of like a clear picture for you and for from the other maintainers, then we can open the proposal. Yeah.
Sounds good.
Otherwise, you can directly open a proposal and we can discuss it there, but I would go with the issue first. Yeah.
I agree. This way we can iron out some initial design concepts. All right. I think this is more than enough to get me started. I really appreciate your feedback. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the. Could you stop sharing? I will share my screen.
Yep, just trying to stop it now.
Yeah, it stopped now. I think. Okay, we have done here. Let's next topic from Adam. So this is Cluster API Bootstrap virtual kubelet provider. That is, like Adam mentioned it, I think. From what I know, they are using the Cluster API stack with Metal3 and provisioning it, but they are not deploying the Kubernetes. So they are simulating the kubelet, but like they're using the Capi stack as well. So it sounds really cool project. Please go ahead and check if you are interested. So yeah, that's what I know. Probably Adam knows better. Yeah. Next thing is triaging. I'm not sure if I can triage because I was not prepared to. Normally I would have checked it beforehand, but do we have anything else? But yeah, we have quite new things. I would say that let's keep triaging. When we have other, we can do that on the next community meeting. Okay, anything else? Like any questions, suggestions, or anything to say? Please go ahead now. Okay. So if no questions, like we can stop. We can cut the meeting here. Thank you very much. Have a nice rest of the day. Bye
Thank
bye.
you too.
Thank you all. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Bye bye.